Outsourcing tends to have a bad reputation as being low quality. Partner Hero's value-based approach raises the bar for the outsourcing industry by investing in employee empowerment and career growth, paying above-market salaries, and maintaining a focus on quality and performance. They're more than a service provider. They're also a thought partner for the startups they serve. It's simple. Brands that care about quality customer experience choose Partner Hero. They offer flexible terms and the ability to scale quickly, perfect for startups, with quality assurance baked into every program and offices around the world. So Partner Hero can provide truly global coverage. Outsourcing has long been available mainly to big businesses, but Partner Hero is challenging business as usual by bringing the benefits of outsourcing to businesses of all sizes with short, flexible contracts and fast ramp-up times. 10 years ago, when we were launching the Action Catalyst, we could have used a few extra hands to help us scale quickly, even if it was just for a short while. You can bet that with their expertise, fast onboarding, and core focus on quality, Partner Hero would have had our attention. If you're ready to bring in outside customer support help for your startup that feels like it's a part of an existing team, check out Partner Hero. Head over to partnerhero.com/Action Catalyst to book a free consultation with our solutions team. Mention you heard about Partner Hero from the Action Catalyst, and they'll even waive the setup fee. Now, on to the show.
From Nashville, Tennessee, Southwestern Family of Companies welcomes you to the Action Catalyst. Each week, we share insights and inspiration from movers and shakers in the world of business. Our goal is to help you increase your self-discipline, overcome procrastination, and help you to take action on all the things that really matter.
The question that we are tackling on today's episode is a really important one. And the question is, what do you do after you've been successful? What do you do after you've been successful? And this is a question that's been coming up more and more in my life as we have started working with high-profile clients and some of those who have already reached some of the top tiers of their respective professions. And obviously, the people we're interacting with at Southwestern Consulting, some of them are wanting to become top producers, but a lot of them are already top producers who are trying to break through to the next level. And the same with a lot of our consulting clients. And today, I'm excited because we have a life story to introduce to you and to share with you, the real life story of somebody we worked with who was a top producer, hit that wall, struggled with complacency, and then we're going to talk exactly about what they did, how they work with their coach, and how they finally broke past that. Because if you do everything that we talk about on this show, then you too will become incredibly successful, and this will sooner or later become a problem for you. So we'll get started just after this message.
This episode is sponsored by Southwestern Coaching. Southwestern Coaching has helped over 11,000 people increase their incomes by over 25% on average. As a successful salesperson, you know the importance of increasing your sales. But sometimes you might just need a little extra push and accountability to meet your goals and grow your business. Southwestern Coaching will help you increase your income through one-on-one sales and leadership coaching tailored specifically to your needs. Together, we will elevate sales. To schedule your free one-on-one business action planning session with a Southwestern coach, go to www.southwesternconsulting.com/Action Catalyst.
Earlier this year, we started doing these life stories episodes every so often on the show, and they have become a quick fan favorite, and they become a favorite of mine because you're just hearing real stories of real people who are taking action and overcoming challenges and creating results in their lives. And these are our coaching clients at Southwestern Consulting. So we bring on the coach and the client and talk through what's going on, what were they struggling with, and I think you'll find it very relatable and practical. And so today we have Angie Moss. She is one of our coaches. She lives down in we consider it Florida. And she is an absolute delight, just a woman of an incredible resilience. And one of her clients, Brad Moore, who is the vice president of BancorpSouth Mortgage down in Fairhope, Alabama. So, Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me on.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and your business. How long you been there? What do you do? How long you been in the mortgage business? Just give us a little background.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been, I guess I started in the mortgage business in 2009. Didn't know what a mortgage was, but they said it was commission and kind of sales oriented. So I said, sign me up, and started in 2009. Been doing it since. I got on with BancorpSouth almost 3 years ago, and was in Fairhope, kind of starting that market, if you will, down there. And then just recently, they kind of promoted me to an area manager here in Tuscaloosa to open this market. So currently I'm managing both markets. So
you started in 2009. That is so crazy to me, because that is when most people left the mortgage business. Was like 2000.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that. I get that a lot. But one of the cool things is in 2009, that's when rates kind of dropped off the table, and so most everybody else was in their office doing refinances and just stacking checks. And I was the only kid. I was 26, 27 years old, and was the only kid outside, the only person out there, if you will, knocking on doors and getting purchase business. And so, it would just so happen that those 2 years I was, building up for when, the market kind of stabilized and everybody started buying again. I had already kind of gotten a niche with those agents. Mm-hmm. So it worked out well.
And so how did you, and I love that, they say that there's more millionaires made in a recession than any other time in history, right? That's the best time. And that mentality of seeing that as an opportunity, jumping in and doing what other people aren't willing to do that is so cool. So how did you hear about Southwestern Consulting? Like what was your introduction to us?
My boss said, "Hey, y'all, we got a meeting tomorrow morning with someone that wants to come in and talk about sales training." And lo and behold, the infamous KB, as you call her, or Kitty Barrow, comes strutting in the door, and actually, put on a fantastic presentation. I remember sitting there thinking, man, this is right up my alley. I'm a kind of a self-help, self-motivated guy. And, but at the time, I think I told Angie a little bit this, at the time being 27, 28, the investment in my eyes, I couldn't warrant the investment. Of course, now, it's definitely, more than worth it now. But the one and only Kitty Barrow, that's how I found out about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so Angie, welcome, Angie. So good to have you.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
So tell me, when you first, had your first call with Brad, what were some of your first impressions about him, or what were some of the things that you kind of noticed about him or his situation? Is there anything you remember about where he was like when you first met him?
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of times clients will come to us and they're not real clear on what it is that they want to accomplish through their coaching. They know they want some changes, but sometimes they don't have a lot of clarity around what those changes are going to look like or how they're going to manifest. But Brad was not one of those people. It was fantastic. So very early on, it was so good to hear somebody that had such clarity of thought. I mean, I know exactly the three things he wanted. He had a volume goal. He wanted to do it in an easy way. He didn't want to have to work crazy hours, and he wanted efficient systems. And he didn't even pause when he said that. And so it was nice to be able to really focus in early on working on those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is interesting that you say that. I feel like a lot of it is pretty a real common reason why people get into coaching, I think, is because they're looking for clarity. So that's interesting. So Brad, why did you decide to get a coach? So it seemed like you were pretty clear on what you were looking for. Was it was there a certain reason that you kind of decided?
Well, it's our company. When I first started, when Kitty left, she put on a great presentation, and I knew it was something I was interested in. But it just kind of out of sight, out of mind. And then when I came to BancorpSouth, one cool thing about them is they are very sales oriented. Excuse me. And when I was sitting there one day and kind of my intro, if you will, to BancorpSouth, I remember them making the comment, if you produce X amount, we provide for you a year's worth of coaching at Southwest. And I remember that was, to me, was just as cool as, getting your little trophy or name on, certain emblem on a card. I thought, man, if I can get to this point, I get a year's worth of coaching. And the cool thing is before, maybe a month or two into it, instead of doing that, someone at the company, BancorpSouth, approached me and said, hey, we're trying to get you, we'd like some people to do the Southwest coaching. And, they know I'm kind of that self-help process systems kind of guy, and said, would you be interested? And I didn't blink an eye.
So what was the biggest challenge at that time? Because this was a while ago, right? I think when you first started with us was February 2015, or were you took over after that?
I think it was February. 15.
So what was the biggest challenge that you had? Like what were some of the things that you?
Seems like yesterday.
Right? That's a while. Talk me through some of those, some of the struggles or those things that you were really focused on.
Well, one thing, I guess I had gotten, I had a number that I was doing every year. I was happy with that number. It was providing for my family, and then some. But it had gotten to where I only needed, and Angie and I joke, I only needed maybe 3 hours a day to do that, and I definitely wanted to push it. I had systems in place, had processes in place, definitely wanted to push those processes. And, Angie really helped me. And Angie does a good job of, as far as challenges, the holding me accountable. And then also, never fails. Every single time we have a conversation or we do our meeting, she comes up with a new idea or a saying or something to think about that I'm thinking, that you can't put a price on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, would you say the word complacent is really what is what you were?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And so you decided at some point you weren't okay with just being complacent.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something cool is Angie made a comment that said, write your, you got your vision boards, all that's great, we do all that. But Angie made a comment, why don't you, instead of just your vision is where you want to end up, how about it's on your to-do list? Why don't you put down, your career goal and maybe some things to do to reach that career goal, and maybe to be your ideal career, if you will. And so slowly but surely I put that down on a piece of paper and here we are.
So that's interesting because I know vice president now. That's a quick rise. So coming back to you, Angie, what were some of the other things that you, in terms of the plan, right? So here you have a guy, he's successful, he's making money, but he's not ringing the top bell that and he's not hitting all his potential that he could be. And he's battling all this complacency. For you, what was the plan, or what was some of the strategies that you saw as an opportunity to kind of focus in on and say, all right, this is what we need to do. This is what is going to take Brad to the next level.
Well, I have to credit Brad. He is an incredible student of the game, and I think just hearing him talk about how into the self-help and all of that stuff he is, but he's an incredible student of the game. And what struck me early on was how motivated he was with getting better. And it not necessarily was tied to the results, so those were nice. He had this drive to be better. And so early on, I thought, let's focus on that. The results are going to come, but this is a guy who really wants to be better for himself and for his family. And his family has always been in the forefront for him and talks about them a lot. He's got 2 little ones at home. But for me, it was like a recognition of this person who has a drive that he couldn't necessarily put his finger on, but it was just a drive to be better. And what's interesting, and the thing that I love probably the most about his story was this is a guy who went from producing and just was thinking about producing. He really hadn't really put any clear thoughts down about what he wanted to do outside of just producing and doing what he was doing. But he always knew he wanted to be able to go back home. He always knew that he wanted something over and above what he was currently doing. And in December of this past year, we had one phone call in particular that stands out to me. And he said, he said, I met he was $7,000 short production-wise, but basically met his production goal for 2015.
What year? Like what month?
I'm feeling kind of guilty.
What month was that in?
That was that was in December.
Okay.
We started in February, and he started out a little bit behind, but he did meet his goal for 2015, and this was December 15th, and he said, but I'm feeling guilty. I said, you're feeling guilty? What do you mean? He said, well, because I can do this production now in about 15 hours a week. That's all it takes. And he said, so what I'm really wondering is, what do I want to do with my career? Really, what do I want? How do I want this to evolve? And so it was this wonderful transition from him focusing on his production and himself to beginning to focus on how he could help others. And he clearly had a drive to reach out and sort of help people. He said, I've created a lot of systems and I've learned so much. He said, I really want to be able to help other people. And I think I could help other people that are loan officers like me do the same thing. And I think I really want to do that. And it's so funny because that was, I think, December 15th. December 31st, he told me he got a call basically saying, hey, would you be interested in moving back to your hometown and opening an office for us there? And so now this is a guy who, reached his own personal goals and said, yeah, I want to help other people. And just the doors opened up 2 weeks later. And so now, April 1st, he was able to move back home with his family and open up a second market. And now he's in a position that he can take what he's learned and start helping other people do the same thing in another market. And that, to me, is just really incredible.
I love that. I mean, that's such a cool, ultimate transformation. So before, I want to talk more about that, but before we do, so Brad, did you feel like, tell me about December 2015. So you hit your goal, but you are still feeling guilty.
Yeah, and it was, we had, we put, like I mentioned earlier, we put some processes in place, and I told Angie the goal was, it was a number goal, and if you hit this certain amount, it puts you into kind of like the top producers of the company. And I think maybe when I started the company, I was just, or when I started coaching, it was maybe just a couple months, but maybe 6 months before the year ended, so I didn't quite have a full year under my belt. So I told Angie, listen, this is something I want to do. I want to hit this number. I'd like to be invited to this little producers retreat and all that. So we hit our number. We put our systems in place, constantly changing them, making them better. And we hit our number. And I told Angie, I said, this is just, I feel especially, I feel like I've got all this time. You talk about multiplying time, and I'm sitting here thinking, man, I got so many more hours, so many more hours in a work week, that we could be, we need to be doing more. Like, we need to be, and not just volume, yes, but also, what are we not doing? What are we not, thinking about, being proactive? And I just thought, there's got to be more. We've got to be doing something more.
Well, I think that's really an important lesson, is people
people think, gosh, if I could just be caught up, if I just have all this time, right? Like then it would be, then I would be there. But here you are, an example of somebody who's like, you have that, and you still are feeling called to use that time to do something. So it's almost suggestive of like success it's not represented by how much money you make or even how much time you have, but the impact. The impact is it's comparing like the impact that you're making compared to the impact that you could potentially be making. And when you realize that gap, which sounds like what you did there, Brad, and that's very common of how a top producer starts to move to become an ultra performer or a multiplier, is when they realize that gap. I think that is really big. So since you moved into management, have there been any major like roadblocks or speed bumps that you have run into, kind of in this sort of next level new role?
We're getting there. Kind of it's cool. Angie, 6 months ago, she and I were sitting there talking about, if you will, one-on-ones and closing a sale, etc. And now our calls, we're spending 20, 30 minutes talking about hiring and interview tactics, etc. So I guess right now the challenge is, or soon will be, we've identified a couple people to, invite to come on board. And so the challenge that awaits us, besides, penetrating a new market and getting our name out there and our reputation and our brand, is having to sell, I guess, if you will, those processes, our company, to potential other loan officers and hopefully get them on board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's that been like, Angie? Because I noticed that, I know that you guys just yesterday, it looks like you guys were talking about the difference between being a manager and being a leader. At least I saw that's the module that you guys covered. What's that transition been like to talk about leadership, and what's kind of the plan that you see there?
It's been really so much fun. I mean, just the whole transformation has just been incredible. And I think what happens is it's a consistent focus on, let's make sure that we spend time working on your business, not in your business. It's a constant reminder of what kinds of things do we need to be looking at and attending to from that 10,000-foot view, if you will. And now it's not just about managing the people that he has on his team for his own personal production, but how is he going to take that and expand it into a bigger role? And what traits has he seen in others? What does he look for in people that he admires and looks up to from a leadership standpoint? And what does he need to do to sort of work his way that way and be that leader that he really wants to be? And it's just such a fun thing to do, to be able to sort of make such a clear path from producer to leader.
Yeah, and
because he was already a leader, he just didn't have people to lead yet.
Mm-hmm.
No truth.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because what we see a lot of times is all the characteristics that make a great producer, it's like you're independent, you're autonomous, you're ambitious, self-starter, right? Like you're hard-charging, you're a problem solver, you figure things out on your own, you're self-motivated, etc. And then when you become to being a manager, it's like, in a lot of ways, it's the opposite. It's all about the team, right? It's about going slower, being patient to help people, to find people, to train people, to show them. And yet, I think the thing that inspires me about your story, Brad, is this realization of going, that complacency of self-performance, then shifting to the leadership of service-mindedness, and talking about helping others and training other people. So do you think, has that been a difficult transition for you, or do you think you stepped into that naturally? And are you still producing?
Absolutely, yeah. We're like, when they hired me, I mean, right now I've got a small staff. It's processor underwriter, and really just process underwriters outsourced. It's just process right now, and I am definitely still producing. Right? They've I guess given me the task to kind of take that, as Angie said, kind of that one-on-ones with realtors and marketing, et cetera, and kind of get our name out there to our new market. At the same time, bring loan officers on board to, hopefully eventually kind of, if you facilitate, if you will, some of that production.
And what do you think so tell me a little bit more about what do you see in the future for yourself and your team? Like what's the vision? Where's Brad Moore going?
The vision is it's kind of crazy. My markets are 4 hours from each other. But there's two things that I do love is I do love Tuscaloosa and I do love the beach, and one market is at the beach, and so the goal would be I wish I could remember exactly the same, have short term, long term, but to really put my head down for 7 to 15 years. And look up and have created, maybe not just one office in Tuscaloosa, but maybe a couple, same in Baldwin County, and then maybe have the opportunity to manage those and, in 40s, 50s, kind of slowly transition from that production standpoint into more of a leader/manager, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So
more time on the beach with Angie.
So, Angie, I got a question for you. What do you think is the number one thing that you have learned from Brad? So you watch him make this transition from producer, realizing there's more available to him, stepping out kind of in faith and courage to go after that and start making more short-term sacrifices again and rebuilding that. What do you think has been the biggest thing, to flip the roles a little bit that you've learned from watching him?
What consistently inspires me about Brad is his quest for knowledge and his quest to do things a better way or to find a way to serve more people and be better with what he's doing. And it's that level of integrity that he has that I'm just consistently inspired by, and his willingness to do whatever he needs to do. And he mentioned it before, trying to think of the term, double time, part time for full time, free time. And that's exactly what he wants to do. That's exactly what he's focused on. And, I think it's that quest for him to always stay out of that complacency. It's that quest for him to say, you know what, success for me is going to be a moving target. And I'm not sure, necessarily what the end is going to look like, but I know it's a moving target, and I know I can be better, and I know I can do better, and I know I can do it with ease, and I know that I just got to keep my feet moving, and that for me is what I love about the work that I'm doing with him.
I love that. What about you, Brad? What do you think if you go? What's the top tip? It could be a technical sales tip, or it could be a leadership tip or a time management tip, or what do you think is the number one, like, your favorite thing that you've learned either from Angie or Southwestern Consulting or just from being in the process? Because I know you're a huge student.
Roy, there is so many. On all aspects of it. My favorite about Angie is there's always something. Every call. Sometimes I don't want to say I'm dreading the call, but I know maybe I hadn't hit my CSS like I'm supposed to. I know she's going to get on to me. But then again, we'll have our conversation, and it never fails. there's always one tidbit or one nugget, one idea, if you will, that she comes up with, that is totally unrelated, or, that she slowly kind of asking, and she's asking the right questions until all of a sudden we're talking about something, whether it be, customer relations, surveys, et cetera, ideas to constantly, that are just unbelievable. And that every time we talk, I'll be listening to you yell at me about my CSS, and the next thing I know, we're talking about something, and I'm writing down, circling, and thinking, putting it on the vision board, thinking this is gonna change. And when you actually put it into practice, you're amazed at how much it does change.
We love hearing that. Why are you beating them up on CSFs, Angie? That's good. I like to hear that.
Well, that's been a particular.
It's like a mother with the chores.
That's great.
Well, you know what? I think that, really it's funny because there are ebbs and flows and everything. And especially with this transition, with him, he sold a house, he bought a house, he had to open a new office, he had to find the lease. It's not a small chore opening up a new office and moving your family and kids 4 hours away. And so that just happened to be one of the ebbs and flows and things that we wanted to make sure didn't fall off the tracks.
Mm-hmm.
On top of producing. We have that in there.
Right.
Mm-hmm. No excuses. So last question.
Exactly.
Last question for you, Brad. If there is somebody out there who is listening right now and maybe they are struggling with the complacency thing. I mean, I think a lot of people listen to this because they're really hungry and they're growing, but we have a very good chunk of our coaching clients who are more, it's the opposite. It's like they're making plenty of money. They're coach, they're just like happy camper, just hanging out, but they know deep down that they're not really bringing the heat. They're not really doing the deal. They're not living up to their potential, and they're sitting here listening to your story. What would you say to that person?
My advice, I guess, talking to me 2 years ago is, success is like sanctification. I mean, you never really ever get there. And as soon as you allow yourself to feel like you're there, you've tapped your potential. And one thing that I've loved about Southwest and Angie is, for once, I always had these big dreams of where I wanted my career to go. But for once, actually putting these processes, these systems to test, and seeing where, when you're not so results oriented as much as you are getting better, and constantly trying to sharpen every knife or every arrow in the quiver, then the sky's the limit. You're constantly looking for ways to be better. And when you look up in your life and you look in the rearview mirror and you go, wow, I can't believe I just did that. Can't believe I'm here. And it's all to the thank of Southwest and kind of motivating me there.
I love that. Success is like sanctification. What a good parallel for sure. Well, Angie and Brad, thank you for the work that you're doing. And, I don't think people often realize how much when they're overcoming their barriers and they're moving to the next level, how much they inspire the people around them. And any story that is one that moves in the direction of service is one that we love and believe in and want to highlight. And I know that requires some work and effort and challenges, and Angie yelling at you every once in a while about your CSFs, but it's worth it. So thank you both, and thank you for sharing the story here. We wish you both the best.
Thank you so much.
What a cool story. I just love it. I love hearing the real life the actual thing of what happened and what somebody was struggling with, and what Brad and Angie did was just amazing. And I think there's some really good lessons that came out of there that I have a lot to draw on. And what I wanted to do is try to capture some of that and synthesize it into these 5 combatants of complacency, 5 things that you can do that are sort of action-oriented to help you if you're struggling with, or if you know somebody who has this issue right now, because it's a big issue, and you'd be surprised at how many people get to some level in their career and they're just happy, making more money probably than they ever thought they would be making, and in a better place. And it's a great problem to have. It's one of the funnest to coach people through, because you know there is so much more available to them. So the first of the 5 ideas is to reduce your risk. One of the things about why you should keep going is because you can reduce your risk. That's one reason to keep working, because you've acquired a lot, and anybody that has accumulated a lot of money will tell you that it's one thing to accumulate a lot of money, and then your focus starts to shift to how do you make sure you don't lose it. So rather than sitting back on your laurels and soaking up the sun on the beach all day, you really have to start working on a plan to lessen the likelihood that what you have earned will disappear, whether that is a great family or a great business or a great income. And this can be developing new leaders in your organization. It can be paying off all of your personal debt on your real estate, or it can be investing into research so that you always know what is coming ahead. But all of these are things that you can be doing and be thinking about. If you're not motivated anymore to achieve, then there is a level of motivation that usually will come from reducing your risk. So think about what you can do for that. The second thing is raise your expectation level. Because if you feel like you're at the top of some category, you will find that it is naturally hard to keep pushing, because you just feel like you're there. And so what you have to do is raise your expectation level. And one of the best things you can do is get around a new peer group of people who are at a level that are beyond you. That's one of the reasons I think people get into coaching, is because we coach people that make millions of dollars a year. So if someone's making a couple $100,000 a year, it's not really it's impressive. It's a good thing, but we're exposed to a lot, and we see a lot, and we see ideas that are implemented by lots of successful people. So that kind of idea has a lot of power, whether it's getting a coach or it's just a new peer group, or being around people who are thinking at a level that is bigger than you. And they're definitely out there. And if you can find them and surround yourself with them, I think you'll find that it will really reignite your hustle, and it will expand your horizon. That's a good thing. The third idea is to create new challenges. So start with thinking, what is the biggest possible thing I can think of accomplishing in my life? Like, what is your wildest dream? What is the most over-the-top thing that you have never previously even thought to be possible? And you've reached some level of success that at one time for you was far-reaching, but now it's not so much anymore. And so I want you to think about that. Think about your wildest dream, and then go to work on it. Because you're a different person today than you've ever been before, which means you're capable of achieving things that were once unrealistic for you. So you have to kind of set new sights and create new challenges. The fourth thing is to invest in significance. So you're successful. That's great. The follow-up question is, who cares, right? There's lots of successful people, but you know what there are not a lot of? There's not a lot of successful people who help make other people successful, right? So the new question is, who are you taking with you? Who are you pouring into? Who is going to still be here changing the world once you're gone? And for me, I have found that to be so inspiring. And one of the most exciting affirmations in my life is that I create millionaires all around me. That is something that's much more inspiring to me than saying I'm going to make more and more and more and more money. And I think when you're struggling with complacency, very often it's because you have what you need And so it's like, well, what's the point? Well, that is exactly the point, is it's not about you. And you're lucky because you've reached a place where it doesn't have to be about you. Your basic needs have been met. Your goals have been achieved for the most part. And I think you should set new goals and do some of these previous 3 things that we've talked about. But what's even more powerful than that is going, okay, how can I pay it forward? Who can I invest into? Who can I mentor? Who can I train? Who can I teach? Who can I coach? And I think you will find that will help you to come alive, which is very much related to the last one and the most powerful one, I think, of all, which is to focus on giving. Be inspired by a cause that you support, right? Work not just for yourself, but for someone else or for something else. It's easy to let ourselves down. It's hard to let other people down. And if you find a charity, right, that you want to support, so okay, maybe you have your retirement is taken care of, or maybe you are debt free, or maybe whatever, your business is at a level that just you're happy with. So then you go, okay, well, how can you do something with the excess capacity you have to accomplish something else, to build a school, or to donate to some huge cause, or to buy somebody who's struggling, buy them a house or buy them a car, and create the kind of gifts that really do change the world. And that is really important. And here's the essence, I think, of what Brad was talking about, and Angie, and you hear them get this. You hear them get to this place when they talk about how they made the breakthrough, was that it comes down to service, because complacency is a sign of self-centeredness. Complacency is a sign of self-centeredness. Complacency says, I have all that I need, so I don't need to work anymore. But a servant mindset is one that can never be complacent, because a servant's mindset is never just about themselves. It's always about helping others. And when it comes to helping other people, your work is never done, right? There's always someone in need. There is always someone who is struggling. There is always someone that you can help. And so if you're finding that you are complacent, it may be because you are living a self-centered life. You're not thinking about all the people you could be helping. You're not thinking about all the good that you could be doing. You're not thinking about the difference that you could be making. And my guess is that your work is probably not as meaningful and significant as you once thought it to be. So perhaps the complacent person is very much missing something after all, because we think the reason we're complacent is because we have it all, but perhaps it's because the complacent person really is missing something, because all the money, all the titles, all the fame, all the awards, and all the recognition eventually loses its allure. But a heart of service always inspires, always motivates, and always sustains. So maybe the cure to your complacency is simply found in your focused service of helping other people. Well, that about wraps up the Action Catalyst podcast for this week. If you haven't yet, please log in to whatever your favorite medium is to listen to the show, and both rate this podcast and leave a comment, as that really helps us out.
If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and screenshot this episode to share with your friends on social media. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst, and subscribe to our video podcast on YouTube. Thanks for listening.